This is Fantasy Avenue, hosted by Mikey Andersen, your road to fantasy football victory. The end of the fantasy football season. I mean, it gets me choked up just thinking about it. What a season it was. Now, is this episode coming about a week late? Yes. Yes, it is. Does that matter? No. Because it's been a good week of football. You know, I'm sure you guys haven't even had time for podcasts, right? You've been watching playoff football. No one missed out on anything. Let me make my browser a little bit bigger, just so I can fully take in this moment. My God, feels like it's been about 15 years since I did an episode, just about 2 decades. 15 years, about 2 decades there, I think. That's not right. Well, you know what? It's been a long time. Okay, I'll say that much. Apparently, we have a little bit of a fantasy football review to talk about. Apparently, I spent so much time trying to connect my microphone to my computer that I didn't really plan what I was going to say. But you know what? I have it planned now. It took me about that 8 seconds to figure out what I was going to say, and here it is. This episode is going to consist of looking back at the fantasy football season. I'm going to look at the top 5 at each position. Hold up. I got to plug in my phone. Okay, I'm back. Even though I can use the pause function on this recording device, and I could edit, you know, I kind of like to approach the podcast more as a radio show. I push start, and there'll be very little interruptions. Okay. Now, you might think having a radio show podcast would be easier with a partner, and by golly, do I agree. That's why I need some people on the podcast. Okay. Now, I started recording in my room recently because it's way easier than like right now. I'm doing this recording at 11 p.m. Okay. I've had a long day. I took a nice bath. I should not be saying, forget I said that. I don't take baths. I take ice cold showers like a man. After my long day, it's easy to do the podcast in my room, right? I don't want to go all the way down to my dad's office, 10 minutes, 15 minutes away, do a podcast. No. And so I like to do it in my room instead. Now, when I get guests on the podcast, that will unfortunately have to change. At least for that episode. We'll go down to the thing. But I heard some people were a little confused. How are you going to have a guest? Does he just sit on your bed while you talk? No, that's weird. And my bed's messy, okay? No. If company comes over, it's got to look good in here, okay? That's why we go to the shop, which is equally as messy, but at least it's in a professional environment. And we get down to business. Now, you also might be wondering why, Mikey. As I take a drink of my organic nutrition protein shake. Why, Mikey, are you taking so long to get to the point? Well, it's the end of the fantasy football season. If you're with me now, you're one of my solid, real listeners, okay? We have a pretty big drop-off in terms of listeners when we get to this point, and it's something that I've thought about. How am I going to make the podcast just more year-round available? That's what I talked about in my DECA thing. DECA, I don't know if any of the people are actually going to listen to the podcast, because this is a real business, okay? This is real. They can look it up, okay? If you're listening, I really want to go to Florida. I'm begging. This is a good business, and I know you like my charisma, so just give me that first place, baby. Come on. Anyway, back to topic. What was I talking about? Oh, the partners, yes. The partners in general, right? We want to do it more in the podcast. We're looking. I'm taking a while to get to where I want to go because we're having a bit of a drop-off. That's why I want to spice it up with some people on the podcast. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm going to find somebody, okay? And for the rest, let me finish my shout-outs before we really hop into it here. Shout-out number 1, Donnie Aquina. Clap it up. I used to have a clap function on my soundboard. I do not anymore. That just probably sounded like I was banging on the desk, but that was a clap. Clap it up for Donnie. Takes home the fantasy football prize in my friend group's fantasy football league. Beat me in the semifinal. Ended up winning the championship. You know, got a big reward. Donnie, use your money well. Okay. I mean, I'll give you praise to the end of the moon. But if you waste your prize on something that doesn't benefit the group, and you know what I'm talking about, okay? I'm not talking about gas money here. I'm talking about some snacks, all right? If you don't spend the money where it should be spent, I'm going to be a little disappointed, okay? But I'm not taking nothing away from your fantasy football season, all right? An incredible run. And he talks to me in school. He's like, I better hear my name on the podcast. You know what? I am, all right? Just buy some chips and guac. I mean, who doesn't live for a Tostitos chip? Those like dip chips that like are bowls and hold all the good stuff in them. God, I need some of those funded by you. All right, that's all I ask. Okay, and there's your shout out. I'm proud of you. Shout out the rest of I don't know. We're how many listeners are we looking at here? Maybe a busload of listeners on this episode. Shout out every one of you. Okay, I support you. I appreciate you like you appreciate me. I know you came here for some podcasts, for some fantasy stuff. So let's get into it, okay? Because time's a ticking, right? The fantasy league is not running itself. I'm gonna pull up the Sleeper app, go to the top 5 players at each position. As I talk about that, something else has been really on my mind lately. I've been watching some Instagram reels, right? And something that came up was the MVP conversation. Okay, actually that might have been on. Yeah, I think it was on Instagram Reels. I mean, my God, I've never seen a social media platform cover so much. Thank God. They're not banning TikTok either. That's absolute bull crap. I don't think they can. It's not a. I mean, they would ban Temu at that point, wouldn't they? It's not even a Chinese-run company, first of all. But second of all, I'm pretty sure that's limiting freedom of press or something. I don't really know. I'm learning it in Gov. Trying to learn it in Gov. I've been kind of locked in on my DECA project, wink, wink, in Gov for the last couple weeks. But anyway. So I was looking at that and I was like, wow, the MVP conversation, oh my God, this is gonna work perfect. This is gonna work perfect into my next section. We're gonna talk about the season stats and who is better to talk about than the quarterback positions. Top 5. Let's do 5, huh? 5, and how did they get here, right? Lamar, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and Jaden Daniels. I want you to look me dead in the eyes and say, what do those 5 players have in common? Well, 3 of them can run the ball. 2 of them sling the rock, okay? Running quarterbacks are all the rage in fantasy football, and personal bias goes to Josh Allen because I have him on my fantasy team. His rushing yards don't compete with Lamar's. Lamar is a running back and a quarterback combined, and those fantasy points, that propels him off the charts. There's a reason why he finished the number 1 quarterback. The dynamic need. Okay, this is what it is right now. I'm going to talk about Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield real quick, Jaden Daniels. An incredible season for Jaden Daniels. Not taking anything away from him, but Bo Nix is a dog, and I support Bo Nix in terms of Rookie of the Year more. Not everybody does it, but you know what? It's a toss-up for me. But that's not what this is about. Bo Nix is going to happen later in the episodes. Hoping for that Coach Flynn episode. Coach Flynn, you're cooked, buddy. You're cooked, dude. Bo Nix had a season. Where were the 49ers? I remember the hate last year. God, I was thinking about this in the shower a couple days ago. What I'm going to say to him, oh my God. The smack that's going to be talked, it's going to be off the charts, everybody. Anyway, Jaden Daniels, incredible rookie season, ran the ball. Baker Mayfield slung the rock, 4,500 passing yards, 41 passing touchdowns. I mean, that's just animal numbers. When you find a guy who's passing the rock like that, you better pick him up, okay? Had 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, 300 rushing yards. Like, that doesn't... You look down to Jared Goff, very similar stats, 56 rushing yards. Rushing quarterbacks, you got to have them. And, of course, Joe Burrow, one of the best seasons in recent history where a quarterback really just got absolutely snuffed by his team. It's pretty unfortunate. I feel bad for Joe Burrow. A man should not have to dye his hair to look like Eminem and go through the pain of a season like that. Double whammy. But the supporting cast he has, if the Bengals had, I'm going to come out and say it, Broncos defense didn't play well against Josh Allen at all. If the Broncos defense is on the Bengals, I think they're a Super Bowl, a top 3 Super Bowl team. Because the Bengals are good. They just needed a defense, and they really needed it earlier in the season. All those Bengals fans saying the Chiefs lost on purpose. No, the Chiefs wouldn't have played their starters no matter who's getting in the playoffs if they lost. So that's a dumb argument. But the Bengals were good, and Joe Burrow was slinging the rock as much as anyone. This is where I want to get in the MVP conversation, and this is where I want you guys to tune in your ears. Who have I talked about this with? Let's see. People who come to mind immediately. Callan, you come to mind. Grant, talk to you about this a little bit. Weber, I remember speaking. Holden, I speak to you about this, I believe. Boys, I want you to listen up. I don't think I really had a surefire opinion. Now I do. Saw this video from Dan Orlovsky, which in general do not agree with his takes on Instagram. He was a terrible NFL quarterback, and I thus just don't give him a lot of credit for his points. Not to say that I was any better of an NFL quarterback, but I sure wasn't worse, okay? This is the point he made. He went from Lamar against Josh Allen, right? First thing he made, he argued for the stats. One thing I believe is that, right, if you look at who the stats were last year, it was Josh Allen, Lamar won it. This year, Lamar has better stats overall. You just can't base it off stats, not only because of the history, but what he said was, if we're going to base the award off stats, make it an algorithm, make the computer decide. Give a certain amount of points to yards, to passing touchdowns, to QB rating. Just make a computer do it and spit out your MVP. If stats are the only thing that matters, okay? Because MVP is not the best statistical player in the NFL. It's the most valuable player to a team. What boosts a team? That's why you can't have an MVP on a bad team, because you can't have a player who's deemed the most valuable and who doesn't and whose team does not end up good, right? Because apparently they weren't valuable enough. You have to take a player who is the heart and soul and everything from a team. And I'm not saying that they've done this in the past. Maybe it's been statistical based in the past, but I'm looking at it right now, and there really is a tale of two stories. There is a super quarterback on a super team, and there is a super quarterback on a team. And you look at the teams compared to each other, and that's really where it is. Buffalo Bills finished with a better record, played a harder schedule, in my opinion. Look at the stars on the Ravens defense versus the Buffalo Bills defense, okay? Not only who did they play, but how is the team itself led, right? The Ravens defense is stacked. They have good players at every position. Marlon Humphrey, 44 cornerback, one of the best corners in the NFL, underrated as heck. The entire Ravens defense flies around, and they are consistently a top 3 defense in fantasy football every year, okay? So you want to look at that. You want to look at the Bills. Bills have a mid defense. Their best, debatable, their best player is Von Miller, who's 412 and has more chickens than he does brain cells at this point. No disrespect to Von Miller. Bronco GOAT. I just thought that was kind of funny. I'm sure he's a very smart guy. But you understand my point, right? An old chicken farmer, dude. He does have chickens. That was not a joke. It's kind of cool, actually. An old chicken farmer leading the defense, or an intimidating purple and black people eater defense, right? Lamar's got the advantage there. Then you go to the offense. Now, I believe Lamar opened up the door for people completely discredit Lamar in terms of Derrick Henry. I believe Lamar and Derrick Henry, that combo is what opened the door so much for their team. But I believe you could put a pretty good quarterback back there, or a quarterback with any semblance of legs, and you'd have a really successful team. Because the amount of running Lamar does, it's not like if you cut that running in half, there wouldn't still be a danger, right? The supporting cast, the tight ends. I mean, if you just look at, you just got to look at the teams that they've played at that point, and you got to see how each team is attacked. Josh Allen, people say, okay, the people who are fans of the Josh Allen MVP conversation say, oh, well, he's just exciting to watch because he does everything and blah, 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 but he's not actually the best player. That's literally the argument. He is the most exciting player to watch because he's the best player. He's catching touchdowns. He's hurdling dudes. He's running past guys. He's underhand passing it. I mean, he looks like Mahomes. That commentators have just rode Patrick Mahomes for what he does, and it is incredible to watch. And who's won MVPs in the past? Who's won Super Bowls? Patrick Mahomes. There's a reason these players do it, right? Josh Allen is that guy. We're not going to base it off stats because that's a computer thing. We're going to base it off value to your team. Josh Allen does everything with less. In a year that he was supposed to be way down, right? That he has no receiving core. In a year without a 1,000-yard receiver, and you can quote me, look it up, because this is like the biggest piece of evidence I found on that Instagram video. Without a 1,000-yard receiver or a 1,000-yard running back. Now, nothing against James Cook. Really good player, scores a lot of touchdowns. But without a consistent yard gainer at any position on the offense, including running back, receiver, the defense, right, the offensive line. Their Bills' offensive line is good, but there is not a player on the Bills that would be a star without Josh Allen. He does so much, okay? I don't want to be a guy who's okay, just because he's flashy, just because he's this or that. No. The man who gives more value to their team, and then when that team is thus better, right? You look around the NFL. I'm going to use the Broncos for an example. Where would the Broncos be without Bo Nix? Probably have 4 or 5 wins. We have 10. The Broncos defense is pretty good. Offense struggles. The Broncos defense is way better than the Bills. The Bills have more. The Bills offense is very similar to ours in terms of weapons. The Bills would be I would think, have 3-4 wins without Josh Allen. They're up to, 13, 14? I mean, there's not a team in the NFL that rests their hopes and dreams on one player, as the Bills do, and you can compare it to the rest of the league in such a way, and you can still see it. I mean, this is long, and I would love for people who actually listen to the podcast to come at me and say like, if you disagree, if you think it's important to have it stacked, if you think it's important that Lamar did the most with what he could. I just think, I mean, there's nothing against Lamar, right? He can't control that he has a really good defense. He can't control that he has an all-star running back. He can't control that they won 12 games, that they're like the 3 seed in the playoffs. There's just a man who did it better, okay? There's always going to be these debates, right, between the top players, and one guy's always going to get shafted. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to the opinion of the voters. I would love to be a voter, and unfortunately I'm an 18-year-old sitting in his robe, or actually, I'm actually sitting in my comfy W gift. But I'm not going to be a voter. I'm just going to say my opinion. And listeners, you can hear it if you want, okay? There's the quarterbacks. That's how the top 5 guys did it. Super excited to talk about in the future of the podcast with the guests who's going to be the MVP. And I'll give my own awards. We're going to come back to this conversation 100%. I kind of got to move on. I mean, I can just tell this is going to be a long episode. I was talking about this with Emery. Man, when this time of night hits, I mean, there's a little dip, and then it's just a spike where my brain, it just fires, you know? Like, I think I could be like a wartime general from like 10:30 to 11:30 at night, consistently, you know? Put me in the decision room from 10:30 to 11:30, and I'm gonna get stuff done, okay? Because my mom calls it overtired. Am I overtired? Could I stand to go to bed at 10? Yes, I do, and I do. A couple days a week, I go to bed at 10, right? But that's not always the deal, you know. And when you eat, and when you go back and have seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths on your dinner ends up lasting 2 hours, and then your whole night's shifted a little bit. War doesn't stop for dinner. That's all I say. Let's go to running backs. I don't think I'm going to have a more heated debate than that, so maybe it'll be less. Oh, this is good. This is just sick. Honestly, this is just a sick list of running backs right here. Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, your top 5. Josh Jacobs, that is surprising. That's touchdown based. That's something that, you know, I'm going to say right now, I say it every year, there's players that score points very heavily reliant on their touchdowns. I think Josh Jacobs is that kind of, you know, that's a powerful offense. I see him getting a lot of yards in the near future. I see him finishing as a top 10 running back. I don't think top 5. I don't think 15 rushing touchdowns is just realistic to expect from him. I mean, that's more than Saquon Barkley. Like, that's not necessarily gonna happen every time. Okay, but it's still something to point and say, wow, good job. I have him on my team. You know, I'm not saying I hate him. Like, go Packers, except when you guys lose. Broncos lost too, so I'm not really hating on that either. I like him. He's one of my players. I don't think he's going to do that again, but he a dog. Okay, Bijan Robinson next. This is something I think is really cool. These are his last 5 weeks. RB2, RB8, RB14, RB8, RB4, RB2. That's how you finish your freaking fantasy football season, okay? That's how you boost yourself into the top 5 of fantasy season. If you finish strong, he scored 2 touchdowns in his last 3 games, like each of his last 3 games. That's an animal. Like, oh my God. That's kind of sick. Also, something weird about Bijan is you think he's like an athletic pass-catching back. He is, but he only had 1 touchdown catch this entire year. That's just a little strange to me. I think it's funny. I think his name's cool. I think it's cool that he's friends with Matthew McConaughey. He's 22. I mean, this guy's going to be a force in the league for a long time. You just hate to see him like possibly rot away his career on the Falcons. I really hope he doesn't. I also want to take this moment to extend my solemn feelings out to Justin Simmons. Long-time Bronco GOAT. And I was really thinking about it. Broncos have been bad for 10 years. I mean, we have been in the pits, okay? And I've talked about why do I hate on bad teams so much? Because I have that pent-up like frustration for the Broncos. We finally know what we're doing, right? And then I look at kind of who are the careers that are finally rejoicing for the good, right? For the good of our team. Cortland Sutton immediately comes to mind, okay? A couple players on the defense like Pat Surtain. I mean, you look at the best players and you say, finally, you guys, Quentin Miranez, Garrett Bowles, these dudes have been on the team for so long and they're reaping the rewards that they really deserved. Justin Simmons was one of the only guys that I can think of as is really going to go down as an all-time Bronco who was on the team and who never experienced the growth. He came in the year after we won the Super Bowl. It was not expected we were going to go back-to-back. Peyton Manning retired. It was going to be a little bit of a struggle. We hoped just for a couple years. We didn't end up making the playoffs. And last offseason, he got traded to the Falcons. The Falcons, who were boosting up their team, who looked like they were in the midst of making a playoff team. Kirk Cousins coming off of injury. Well, Kirk Cousins' season fell apart. Bijan's season went wasted. Justin Simmons didn't make the playoffs, and the Broncos did. And that's just something that I just feel bad, you know? I mean, he's the reason why I wore 31 my sophomore, junior year, because he was such just a light on our team. Like, the one guy I could look at and be like, that's what I want to play like. I feel bad that he's gone. I really hope he comes back. You know, come back in a couple years when we're legit contenders, when we know what we're doing, when we have a little money. Let's bring a veteran back. Let's make a Super Bowl run with him. But Bijan, you know, his woes on the Falcons just remind me of a Bronco that I feel bad for. He's always going to have a place in my heart, you know. He's like Cars, okay? I watch Cars, and a lot of people don't believe it's really that good. And the first thing I say is, it's a kid's movie, okay? You can't expect a deep plot from the movie, all right? And the second movie, the sequel, kind of went off track and had a bit of a deep plot, and that's unexpected. But the second movie wasn't really about racing. I mean, the reason I love Cars, like the reason that I have that childhood love is from that movie. There's something special about that roar of the engines in the first scene. And it just goes back to, no matter how much people hate on the movie for just being shallow or incomplete, you cannot tell me that you watched the last scene when they're, supposedly in the Coliseum or whatever, and Lightning McQueen stops a couple inches before the end of the race, and as Chick Hicks zooms past him, and he grabs the King, and he pushes him over the finish line in his last race, as the King is beat up and wrecked by Chick Hicks. You can't tell me that you watch that moment and you don't get emotional. Like, my God. I mean, I know I'm getting a little sappy here, but that's one of the most special moments in cinematic history, okay? It just has that grip on me, all right? And I saw this video, The Blind Side. I saw this video earlier today. Man, the story behind that movie is a little confusing. Did Michael Orr, the NFL guy, the adoptee in that movie, maybe get used by the family and his media rights? Maybe, I don't know. But the movie is special. And when he saved that kid with his arm from the airbag, and when he was like, I was protecting him. I mean, that moment, maybe I'm saying stuff. It's 11:38, right? Maybe I'm saying stuff that I don't want the whole world to know. But my God, when those moments come across this television screen, I get teary. Because what am I supposed to do? I feel the players, I feel their joy and their sadness, and I feel it. And that's what I feel with these Falcons players, right? These guys are going to have a place in my heart, just like Lightning McQueen does. Because there's a lesson in it. There's a story. There's a story of perseverance, and you feel sympathy for these people. Whether they're making a decision that's right, whether they made a decision that didn't work out for them, you feel the empathy. You have to. Sorry if that got a little deep for y'all. I really didn't want it to kind of overtake the podcast, but at the same time, my God, I did want it to, because it's something that had to be addressed. Let's move on. I mean, my gosh, we got to finish these running backs. This is going to be a long episode. I'm thinking about people who have a upcoming flight. I'm thinking about one person. They've said that they're going to listen to my episodes. Well, this episode's going to be perfect for you, okay? Click that download button. Listen to it on the plane. Enjoy it. I already called you out once. Calling you out again. I hope it's what you have always dreamed it to be. Let's look at the top three. The top three were just set. Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley. Exciting players. Saquon Barkley, over 2,000 rushing yards. There's a reason that the Eagles are so balanced. They are honestly my favorite to come out of the NFC. I think the Lions have a legit chance. Jahmyr Gibbs is a big reason, but the Eagles are just so balanced. Even when they make mistakes, they just kind of have their way with teams. Saquon Barkley's a big reason. I mean, that is a comeback story, That's the freaking Justin Simmons story right there, Fall to the depths of your career and then rise. Man, Win your 7 Piston Cups type, That's how you do it, okay? Derrick Henry, number 3, I'm going to skip down real quick. He was that rival that oh, is this guy on the MVP race with Saquon Barkley the whole season? Didn't quite end up at the level. He had 1,900 rushing yards. That's the highest yards that anyone's ever had, and not been the NFL leader that season. 16 rushing touchdowns. He is an animal. Oh my gosh. I was watching I was working, right? And I hear these dudes talking at the bar. I work at a brewery. It's pretty fun. I'm working at a brewery, and I'm hearing these dudes talk at the bar about him run, right? And they're like, imagine him running at you. Imagine what do you think when you see a guy that strong, that big, and then you think in your head, well, man, he's faster than me too. It just doesn't make sense. He runs so straight up. He reminds me of Eddie George. That's a throwback, okay? If you're questioning my NFL judgment or my NFL knowledge on this podcast, Eddie George. Go look him up. Big, tall, runs hard, had a famous rivalry with Ray Lewis, fellow Raven to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's just an animal, and I had him on a fantasy team this year. I took him in the 3rd round. People said I was crazy for taking an old running back. Well, I won that league, and I also took him in a different league and lost. But I won one of them, okay? I called out Donnie for winning. I'm going to call myself out. I'm also call out Reed Bartholomew. He's the other winner off the top of my head I can think of. But I'm going to call myself out. There's a reason I have this podcast, okay? And it's not because I'm some bum, all right? I know what I'm talking about. And let's go to number 2 on the running backs list real quick. Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, this is actually an idea that I have for the offseason of the podcast, and I'm really excited about this episode. So my brain, as you can obviously tell, jumps around a bit at times, right? I was just starting to think about, somebody asked me, who is your favorite player that doesn't or never played for the Broncos? And I couldn't give them an answer. And that's so dumb, because I'm an NFL fan. I'm a Bronco fan, but I'm just an NFL, lore, history fan. I love football. And I couldn't give him an answer. I'll give you that answer real quick. It's Barry Sanders. Go watch his highlight tapes. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Small, quick, humble, a man that carried one of the worst teams in the NFL for so long. Knew when he didn't love his personal story, his humility, his insane highlights, bouncing off people, the jukes. It's so fun to watch him. So that's my answer. But then I'm thinking, man, there's so many players like Eddie George that I think are just cool. Just aggressive or exciting, fast, passionate players. And I'm like, man, I got to get these out of my head. I got to just write them down. Eventually, I'm going to have a lot written down. I've kind of started my list. It's just random. It's like a dude pops in my head. Tavon Austin, one of the biggest what ifs, right? College. I mean, he's there basically for his college career. Some people I've actually told I don't like college football as much as the NFL. Well, they're pretty close. I know more about the NFL, so I tend to lean towards the NFL. Tavon Austin could have been special, I mean, that I can't think of the song right now, but I can hear his highlight music in my head, and it's hard. But anyway, those type of dudes, right? Jahmyr Gibbs is on there, okay? My Lions section, because I have one for every team in the notes. It goes Barry Sanders, number 2, Jahmyr Gibbs. His speed, his athleticism, I like his whole style, his whole character, the Sonic Knuckle thing he's got going. But he just looks fast when he runs. It's just sick to watch him get a pitch and just be boom, there he goes. Anyway, he excelled on a really good team. He's a really good player, and I mean it's a perfect little look towards the future as I make a list talking about my favorite NFL players around the league. I like how we did that. Let's go to receivers. Ooh, this episode is taking a while. Receivers, all right. Protein shake finished. Receivers: Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas, Terry McLaurin. That's a pretty tough 5. There's 2 things I want to say off the bat. Jamar Chase, 383 fantasy points. Who's number 2? Justin Jefferson. How many did he score? 290. Are you serious, bro? That drop-off is nuts. Those are the 2 best receivers in the NFL. I think they go back and forth each season. I mean, right now, Jamar Chase, 127 catches. You can't not say that he's the best receiver in the NFL. You just can't. He goes, I basically already said what I said about Joe Burrow. It's the same. A high-profile offense. Jamar Chase is just good. I mean, my God, the only bad thing I can think about is that he got shut down by Patrick Surtain II. Other than that, Jamar Chase is an animal. He deserves the best. I mean, he has the most targets, the most reception touchdowns, the most yards, the most receptions. Like, you just count down the stats. It's unbelievable, right? His catch percentage is insanely high. Catches like 75% of the balls thrown to him. 175 targets. He's just catching everything. I think Jamar is the best receiver in football. Justin Jefferson, they both have the flow. It's going to be a rivalry for a long time. The Lions kind of had a similar offense to not the Lions, the Vikings. Similar offense to the Bengals in terms of the flow. Now it kind of fell apart in the end of the season, and that's a little disappointing. It's going to be a mystery, right? And that's another reason why you want to lead in Jamar Chase. Now, people came into the season saying, "Oh, don't draft Justin Jefferson. He has Sam Darnold at quarterback." Well, Sam Darnold turned out to be not bad, and Justin Jefferson became the second best receiver in fantasy football. I think if the Vikings roll with a rookie, if they roll with anybody but god-awful Daniel Jones, I heard somebody say he might be the bridge quarterback. If he's the bridge quarterback, Vikings fans, in the most blunt way possible, just leave the country, okay? You do not want to see that. I don't even watch Giants games, and I know how bad Daniel Jones is, all right? You don't want to see that, okay? Other than that, I mean, if there's any other quarterback at the helm, Justin Jefferson is the second best receiver to draft. Let's go down the list a little bit more. Amon-Ra, Brian Thomas, Terry McLaurin. What to say about these dudes? Brian Thomas, the rookie of the year. And I'm going to talk about this with Coach Flynn hopefully soon. He's my rookie of the year for sure. I traded for him. He ended up getting me, eventually lost to Donnie, but ended up getting me third on a team where I didn't even have a receiver, and I needed some help. Brian Thomas ended up being, that's a steal. And just for a rookie to perform that well is incredible, all right? Amon-Ra finished pretty high, and I had him predicted pretty high. I'm seeing a common theme, right? I mean, you see these playoff teams or these high-profile offensive teams, and they have a lot of players, right? They have a lot of good players. Amon-Ra can either take over games, or he can have really inconsistent, really poor games. He's always going to be a guy I kind of lean against. Now, I would obviously do my research. Would I draft him over Brian Thomas? Would I expect as successful of a season for Brian Thomas in his second year? I don't know. It might be hard. You might want to take the consistency of Amon-Ra. But, man, when you need 5 points and he gives you one catch, it's just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, Amon-Ra, sun god, I'm more like Amon-Ra, the dirt god. Amon-Ra, like bruh. That was painful. That was painful to listen to. Number 5, Terry McLaurin. I'm obviously getting a little tired. That's some good water. Number 5, T. McC. Good player on a good team. Finally got the credit he deserves. Yeah, and what I want to point out most is he only had 1,000 yards. Okay, how are you the number 5 receiver with 1,000 yards? Well, you catch a lot of touchdowns. All right. People say, okay, is touchdown consistent? Yeah. When you got Terry McLaurin, it is. Because the Commanders' offense really is only going to get better, okay? Terry McLaurin is the guy that you want to look at the touchdowns. I mean, you look at the top touchdowns right here. Justin Jefferson, 10. Amon-Ra, 12. Brian Thomas, 10. Terry McLaurin, 13. Drake London, 9. Malik Neighbors, 7, 6, 7, 7, 4, 11. Like, he has the most out of anyone in the top besides Jamar Chase. He is consistent. He is going to do that because of his speed, because of their offense. He's an exciting player. And I've noticed I talk really passionately about my dudes that are on my fantasy teams. Pretty awesome. Let's go to tight ends. I got to finish this episode. I got to finish it. I'm done. I'm tired. Brock Bowers, George Kittle, Trey McBride, Jonnu Smith, Mark Andrews. Brock Bowers, he's going to be a force. Man, I wish I drafted him in my Dynasty League so bad. I wanted to, but I just didn't have a high enough pick. I knew he was going to go ahead of me. I have Travis Kelce in that league, right? So I need a replacement at tight end eventually. I'm hoping to get Tyler Warren this year. Definitely my top target in my Dynasty League in the draft coming up. But Brock Bowers is going to be special for a long time. 112 catches. Are you insane? Number 2 had 76. Like, what? Number 2, George Kittle. George Kittle is the only bright spot on the 49ers offense. Honestly, I think he's going to have about the same season as he did this year and next year. I think, right, the offense is going to get better in general, but there's going to be less targets to go around. I think he's going to have a pretty similar season, and he's always, I mean, it's just his energy. I mean, he's got to be on the all likable NFL team, right? The top likable players. I would have to really think about David Montgomery's got to be there at running back. It's obviously gonna be him there. Baker Mayfield or Jameis Winston at quarterback, probably. Receiver, receivers are kind of hard because they're kind of divas. Terry McLaurin though, he is an unlikable receiver. He's pretty cool. Justin Jefferson is too. They're both just good dudes. Josh Allen might be there at quarterback. Anyway, just went on a long tangent. George Kittle's a nice dude. He's cool. I like his flow, and he's got a nice like family. It's just like it's cool when you watch videos. Like his wife, like they just seem to have a good relationship. It's kind of cool to watch. All right, number 3, Trey McBride. Man, did he get catches. I'm going to say he's going to have a pretty similar season as well. I think his catches are going to go down. I think his touchdowns are going to go up. Yards are going to stay about the same. He's got 111 catches, 2 touchdowns. Those are both fluctuating numbers that should shift down and up respectfully. Good player. Not much else to say. Jonnu Smith, that came out of nowhere. And I really will have to do my research. I'm going to come back to you on this one. I don't know how he had such a good season. I mean, the Dolphins were pretty just dismantled at the receiver positions, and I think they were forced to check the ball down a lot. So I'm not sure he's going to have the season he did, but he was a good player. I remember this guy when this guy was like a waiver wire warrior. Whoa, trademark. I'm going to look that up. Someone's definitely said that before, but I've never heard it, and I just dropped it. It was pretty tough. I remember when people were saying, like he'd be like your deep pickup. So I think the days of that are over, at least for next season, because people will draft him. Whoops, just dropped pen. Sorry about that. But he's a good dude. Mark Andrews, number 5. Last tight end. I remember when people, that's incredible. Let me read his game log real quick. This says everything you need to say, right? Tight end 29, tight end 11, tight end 19, tight end 3, tight end 3, tight end 10, tight end 31, tight end 2, tight end 27, then 8, 4, 9, 7, 7, 6. That's how you finish your season, all right? That's super frustrating to play. And I know how many, he had 0 in 2 games, in two straight games. I had 1 target. The amount of people that I know dropped him, insane. I know so many people did. I'm frustrated I didn't pick him back up. Somehow he ended as a top 5 tight end. I don't even know how. I think it must have been his strong finish to his season. He was scoring some touchdowns. He scored a touchdown in 6 straight games to end his season. So that'll do it after starting 0 for 5. That'll do it. Mark Andrews, pretty much a beast. At this point, I might have talked to you personally and said, if you're not a fan of fantasy football, don't listen this long. If you are, stick around. I appreciate it. If not, it's been 37 minutes. You can go. Okay, I'm about to go to bed. I'm definitely not as interesting as I was at the start of the episode, and I'm going to own that, okay? We're going to go to defense kickers real quick. Defense, Broncos, Vikings, Packers, Bills, Texans, Broncos, yeah, they're the best defense. 12 forced fumbles, 15 picks. The sacks, how many sacks? Defensive touchdowns, 5. That doesn't happen. Sacks, 63. Broncos defense is good, young, hungry, not selfish. They're my top defense next year. I always pick the Broncos defense because they're never believed in, and they always are in the top 10. This might be the last year I can pick them because I don't like to pick defenses early, right? If you know fantasy football, that's a waste. But shoot, because I always have them. And then kickers: Chris Boswell, Brandon Aubrey, Cameron Dicker, Khalil Fairbairn, and Chase McLaughlin. All on pretty good offenses. All on offenses that pass the ball a lot because they got to make up for honestly a lack of scoring. Offenses that kind of get stifled, right? You see a theme. It's not necessarily the best offenses in the NFL. Steelers, Cowboys, Chargers. It's all like offenses that are on the cusp. And that's actually something I will talk about later. Kickers that really excelled this year were offenses that were just like almost really good, almost scoring, and it resulted in a lot of field goal attempts. That's interesting. That's something that I'm definitely going to look into. That's the episode, all right? Man, 40 minutes. That's what this fantasy season deserved, okay? I'm proud of myself. Proud of myself that I got myself out of bed at 11:20 and said, Mikey, it's time, baby. Do an episode. That's it. Signing off. Fantasy Avenue. I love you guys. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with me all season. I really do. It's pretty dope. I basically do this podcast just to do something. And so to have people, girls, guys, anyone, right? Young and old, friends, family, people who listen to the podcast, I really appreciate you. So, Fantasy Avenue, I'll be back next week. It's not like a sign off, but it's just like fantasy season comes to an end. I appreciate the listeners, all right? This has been Fantasy Avenue with Mikey Andersen. See you guys next time.